We're going to start the video out with a little quiz. If I was to ask you to draw your pistol from concealment and shoot 5 shots, how many times are you full pulling or pressing the trigger? So I just wanted to thank you guys for being here. Your likes, your subscriptions, you guys watching the ad at the beginning of the video helps this non-sponsored channel keep putting these videos out. And obviously it's something I'd be doing for free either way, but all that time that you put into me, I'm able to give back to you, and it really means a lot. So thank you very much. I'm gonna try to keep this video to 7 minutes or less.
You liar!
And all we're gonna talk about is the way that I worked through pulling the trigger to get from slapping the trigger when I first started to a very clean press and break as I shoot now. And it's just going to be a quick step-by-step guide from me to just work through it on the range, and the way you can hear it, the way you can feel it, to go from pulling the trigger and the gun moving around a lot to being able to settle your sights properly and get a clean break every time. In this video, I'm going to talk about trigger press, trigger pull. When I think of pull, I think of like pulling a chair, pulling open a door. It's a very quick motion, right? And I think when it comes to shooting, when you think about pulling the trigger, you're going to bring in a lot of variables that move the gun before the trigger breaks. And when we talk about pressing the trigger, you're doing everything to get that trigger just ready to fire, and then a simple press that's going to break it. So whether I'm saying pull or press, it's all meaning a clean break on the trigger. So we're not slapping it, we're not over moving our hand, over gripping our pistol. It's just isolation to get that trigger press, to just break that trigger every single time when you know it's going to break, and eliminating variables to make that a consistent thing for your shooting. One thing I just wanted to make clear that it doesn't get lost in this video is obviously stance, grip, fitness, strength is very important when it comes to shooting a pistol. It's very important when it comes to shooting it proficiently, follow-up shots, all those things. It's exponentially important. All I'm talking about now is just getting accuracy out of a pistol, and that is very simplistic. Proper sight alignment and a clean break. Modern handguns in self-defense ranges, 7 yards and in, are going to be very accurate guns. If your sights are aligned properly and the trigger is pressed perfectly, you will get a hit. It does not matter if you have two fingers on the gun. It doesn't matter if you're holding the gun and someone else is pulling the trigger. It doesn't matter if you're swinging it like wanted. As long as the moment the trigger breaks, if the sights are properly aligned and the trigger breaks, you will get a hit with a modern pistol at close distance range. Obviously, there's a lot of variables when you start moving out of distance, and obviously we use stance, grip, physical fitness to help accommodate the sights being on target and the trigger breaking properly. But the accuracy of the pistol is not predicated on anything of your grip, your stance, your things like that. When it comes to, as long as the sights are on and the trigger breaks, you will get a hit. Grip, all that doesn't matter. So all I'm going to talk about today is based off of that concept, right? Sights on, properly aligned, trigger press, trigger pull properly. I'm going to try to explain this part in one take. So we're just going to talk about the basic workings of a pistol, and then how, if you were a new shooter started shooting versus someone that wanted to have good splits, good accuracy, and combat range, the steps I would take very quickly, okay? So first we're just going to talk about basic pistol, right? So a trigger is going to be, we call this slop or take up, as you want to call it, right? This is where the trigger is just sloppy. And then you're going to feel what a lot of instructors will call a wall, right? So it gets to this point where it's harder, it's pressing back on you. And then as you work through that wall, different triggers are going to be different, you're going to get to where it's about to break, okay? So as that trigger breaks, the gun's going to fire, it's going to recoil, come forward, and now the trigger is ready to be reset, but I still have it pinned, okay? So now you're gonna have an audible, especially with Glocks and a lot of other modern pistols, you're gonna have an audible reset. I'm hoping you can hear that on camera. And it's felt, right? I can feel it in my trigger finger, it's pushing back. So that trigger is now reset, ready for another round, okay? So from there, we're gonna talk about how, if I just gave you a gun as a new shooter and I said pull the trigger, this is probably how it's gonna go. So we're going to load. Now if I just handed you, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see my trigger finger as well. I'll just shoot this way, right? So if I handed someone and said pull the trigger, right? They're going to do this. Okay, so they pulled the trigger all the way through, okay? And then I would say the next iteration of that is someone that's been maybe shooting a little bit. They would get on that slop first, right? So they're gonna get to here, kind of where the wall is, and they're gonna pull that trigger. Okay? So there's the sloppy slap, there's the little bit one, and now someone that is more trained is gonna get to that wall, gonna bring it almost to where it breaks. And they know, okay, a little more pressure, that gun's gonna break. Right? And now, the next iteration of that would be someone that takes that up and holds the trigger back and fires off of reset. It's gonna sound like this. So I'm prepping the trigger just on the wall. I know it's about to break. It breaks and I'm gonna pin the trigger back. So that's pinned, okay? And now the next step of shooting would be I'm gonna fire from reset. So now you're gonna hear it shoot, or you're gonna hear it reset, and I'm gonna fire. Okay? So they know, as soon as I hear that click, the gun's reset's ready to fire. So it's click bang. So it's a very short trigger stroke, but you're pinning the trigger and there's still 2 motions, right? So in order to fire again, I have to let it reset and pull, right? Let it reset, pull. So now the next thing you're gonna wanna work into, and this is where I find the bread and butter, and I hope I've explained this well, I know it's been quick, is I'm gonna prep the trigger as I'm pressing out, and as the gun is recoiling, I'm gonna let that trigger reset, so you're not gonna hear it anymore. So here is holding and letting it reset, and the next shot will be resetting in recoil. So holding, reset, now I'm gonna reset it in recoil. So it's ready to fire again, but you didn't hear the click. Okay, so basically what happens now is when I reset the trigger in recoil, it's ready to fire with 1 pull. So what I've done is gone from slapping the trigger to slowly pressing the trigger to pressing and holding the trigger and then reset fire, 2 strokes, versus resetting in recoil. So the only thing I have to do is 1 pull. So all I've done is eliminate a bunch of variables from a sloppy pull to a mediocre pull to reset and recoil to just having to pull the trigger. So that allows quicker splits, and it only allows me, and it makes it so I only have to do 1 thing for the gun to go off again, and that allows me to isolate wasted movement, knowing that when I fire again, all I'm gonna have to do is a slight press of the trigger. I no longer have to pull the trigger anymore. So to answer the question of the beginning of the video, if I said you need to shoot 5 shots, how many times are you full pulling the trigger? The answer is 1, because when I draw and I full pull, right, the next 4 should be in recoil and a slight press. So it's full pull, set, boom, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4 for the next 4 rounds. Hope that makes sense. We're at 5 minutes, and that is the way that I moved from a sloppy trigger press up into a smooth pull or press instead of all these variables to make consistent hits. So real quick, let's just run through those all again quickly so you can kind of have them in your brain, right? Okay, so first we're gonna have, let me get you lined up. I'm gonna grip this weird so you can see it. We're gonna have trigger slap, as I call it, right? Okay, slapping, that gun's gonna dip before it's gonna break. Now we're gonna have, let's say, the average man pull, right? We get at the slop out of the way, but then we still pull through. So we're still going from basically when the slop stops all the way through the trigger, and then coming all the way off the trigger. Next, pinning. Okay, so we're gonna pin the trigger. It is not reset yet. The gun will not fire until you hear the click. So we're gonna fire from reset. You're gonna hear click, boom. Okay, and now we're gonna move to resetting and recoil. So all you're gonna do is, as the gun's coming out of recoil, I'm letting my finger off a little bit to reset so that click isn't heard because you're still hearing the gunshot. And I'm ready to fire again. You didn't hear it. And now I have 1 thing to do. I just gotta press that trigger a little bit. There we go. Now obviously that's simplifying a lot of shooting. Shooting is one of the easiest things to do that's very complicated. But I hope I helped you understand the way, especially if you bring someone else new out, you can just say, hey, we're gonna work on just isolating the trigger press, because that with sight alignment, you're gonna get your hits, and then we'll start building on everything else to get you a quicker, more accurate, better shooter. I know that was a lot of information quickly, and I hope I explained it well. My point is just, when we talk about being accurate with a pistol, you know, a lot of my videos is reviews on pistols, and I undoubtedly get the comments that say, like, this gun shot low left for me, this gun shot high right for me. And that is not a gun problem. That is a shooter problem. Whether it's your trigger press or you're anticipating recoil, all those things, a handgun, 99% of the time, especially at close distance, is accurate. We aren't. The shooter is not. And that is something that when we start looking at, okay, I'm missing, it's like at the beginning of the video, we don't, a handgun is a tool, like a hammer. If the hammer is missing low left, it's not the hammer. If a gun is missing low left, it's not the gun. And obviously there's circumstances where it is, but a pistol at close range is going to be accurate. We are not a lot of the time. So the video today is just to help you guys understand that if we can get that trigger press isolated and done properly, that's step one of being accurate with a pistol. Now obviously, once we start adding grip and posture and fitness into it, we get more consistent accuracy, we get quicker shots, we get quicker follow-up, we get better recoil control. But when it just comes to isolation of accuracy, all it is proper sight alignment and the gun breaking clean. You will get a hit every single time. So work on just isolating the trigger press. Stop pulling it, stop slapping it, isolate it, press it, let it break clean. You're gonna get your hits. Let me know what you guys think. Appreciate you being here. As I'm watching this video back, I just know there's gonna be some comments from people that say, I have a gun that misses low left. I can just hear it, I guarantee it. And it's probably a Smith & Wesson.